Angel of light, come into me. Show me what I need to see.
Welcome to the Small Victories Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline Victoria, an inspirational thought leader that offers transformational perspectives based on my unique experiences as a woman born without arms and legs. I feel like my life has been full of small victories that has led me to discover the greatness within. I believe that there is no summit upon which we reach our greatness. I believe it is a culmination of small victories achieved moment by moment when we turn toward the inward battle where we get to choose despair or hope, misery or miracles, defeat or victory. My goal is to awaken your potential, your purpose, and your power so that you can discover the greatness that lives within you. Think of this podcast as your weekly portion of tools, stories, and teachings that help you reflect on the small victories in your life. Thanks for tuning in, and let's begin. Welcome to another episode of the Small Victories Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline Victoria. What if one of the most overlooked solutions to addiction recovery was also one of the most powerful and practical investment opportunities available today? My guest today understands this intersection deeply. He grew up in the chaos of alcoholism, nearly lost everything during the COVID pandemic, and was forced to rethink not just how he made money, but how he made meaning. Jim Boad is the co-founder of Group Home Accelerator, a program helping everyday people open and scale sober living and recovery homes that are affordable, structured, and deeply impactful. In just the last 2 years, Jim has helped launch over 14 sober living homes, with 8 more on the way. Homes that don't exist to get people sober, but to help them stay sober through accountability, structure, and clean living. Today's conversation is about resilience, reinvention, and how purpose-driven housing can be a win for communities, individuals in recovery, and entrepreneurs looking for a better way forward. Thank you, Jim, for coming on the show.
I'm glad I could be here.
So excited. I know you and I, when we met, I had no idea. I've never heard about sober homes. I know we got to talk before we hit record, but I would like for you to share with other people who are listening to this, because I actually interview quite a bit of real estate people who are really touting entrepreneurship in not just real estate, but also Airbnbs, vacation rentals, and all that. And I've never heard of this aspect of it. So I'd love for you to share with the audience, what does this model look like?
Absolutely. And it is wildly underrepresented out there. Most people don't really know what it is. And you hit it in the intro. It's not where people come to get sober, it's where people come to remain sober. And that's one of the biggest things, because you hit your rock bottom, you go into an inpatient drug clinic, you get clean, then where do you go? Do you go right back to where you were, where you're most likely around people doing the same things? Do you just go right back to that same lifestyle? Or you find a great place like what we offer, which is sober living. You're coming into a really nice, clean, structured environment with other people that support you that want to be getting sober as well. And that's where we really get to bridge that gap from getting clean and staying clean and really getting back on track in your life. So we're just right in the middle of that. You come into us, and because quite a bit people will come in and they're not really ready to work just yet, because sometimes we have people that come and they were a bartender or they were a server in a restaurant and they're handling alcohol a lot and they're maybe not quite ready to go back to that. So they can come and be in our place and get back on their feet, get their strength back, and then be able to get back out there into the real world and do whatever it is they have to do and stay clean and sober.
What I love about what you're doing is that it's not only good for your pocketbook, but it's also good for a great purpose in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll touch both sides of that today.
Yes, absolutely. Let's do that. Let's divide this call or this interview with that. And I'd love to start with the purpose, because I love inspirational stories. I love motivating and encouraging people, but I also love the practicality of things. How did you stumble upon this, and what has it meant for you as someone who might have been looking for fulfillment?
And I definitively was. I've been a real estate investor entrepreneur for about 25 years. And from the very beginning, I was looking for fulfillment. And I just kept getting caught up in the next thing that made me money. And it just was this perpetual path where I'll do something good next year. I'll do something good next year. And now let's just get this project done and get it moved and flip these houses and build this. And it just was, I was just in that wheel of earn. And like you said, I was building my portfolio of rentals out when COVID hit, and nothing sobered me up more than that, because I was losing it all. No one was paying rents. There was nothing I could do. None of my mortgages were forbearing for me or doing anything that was going to help me. I still had to do repairs. I still had to maintain all the properties and pay utilities on the ones I paid utilities on. I was watching my last 20 plus years just slip away overnight. And I was literally just doom scrolling one day, and I ran into something about group homes. So to me, I thought, okay, group homes. I've had a couple of family members stay in group homes. Some have some mental challenges. So like they were there and had structure. And then there's physical group homes and there's elderly homes. And then they talked about sober living, and it just all went off. And it was just, oh my goodness, sober living. Okay, what is this? So I dug in. I paid for a small online course that was very good. It definitely gave me some info and got me more excited. But the more I dug, the less information I found. There wasn't a lot of blueprints out there on here is what you do to start and scale your own sober living homes. Just jumped in. I got really lucky in a lot of ways, and it's changed my life in so many ways. One, the fulfillment that I get is beyond anything I've ever had in any of the businesses I've done, because I truly get to watch people's lives change in front of me and get to be a little part of that. And it's really cool. And then we won't get too into the finance part on this. I've never had a better cash flow investment opportunity than this in my life.
I love when profit meets purpose. I don't know if you're a believer, but it's not an accident. I don't believe that what happened to be. Jesus, Jesus. I love that. Yeah, I don't think it was a mistake that you happened to come across this, and the lives that you're changing. 14 homes already that you have scaled in this direction. Since when did you start this?
Gosh, I'm actually about 4 years in now, and I've rotated quite a few homes,
Mhm.
because when I was have rentals, I had some duplexes that were like 2 bedroom, 1 baths. So what I've been doing is all of my smaller units I've just been selling, and then I'm building bigger units. So I'm building 10 and 15 bedroom homes now just to do this with. I got less homes, but more beds now.
I think that's a good distinction to make, because I think people think, well, if you have more properties, you can make more money. But really, the goal is that the profit meets the purpose. And what you need to meet your purpose is to be able to have more beds and less homes on paper.
Absolutely.
I am sure there is somebody listening or watching this right now who, like me, was like, jaw dropping. What the heck? I don't even know this existed. This is a great investment opportunity for anybody that wants to do something meaningful, but also make a little cash to help support you. I am a believer that God puts opportunities in our path, and he says, don't ever worry, I'll take care of you. But we're co-creators in that. And when an opportunity comes, we say yes to it. And then, yes, we do get taken care of beyond our imagination. And I'm sure you've experienced that.
Absolutely. Pretty
Yeah.
much every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So tell me, if someone were interested in this type of business model, besides signing up for your certification, I'm going to promote that now. Yes, you offer, because the information out there is very sparse. You're taking a stand saying, no, I'm going to help other people duplicate the system. What would be the first step for them to take if they wanted to start this business model?
The first and most important step, and I really preach this one, and it's the biggest thing I go over even in my coaching, is you just have to get on that phone. You have to start calling inpatient drug clinics in your area. Literally, it's as simple as a Google search, like the town I live in Washington, just my town in Washington, inpatient drug clinics. And you got to just start calling them and seeing what their need is, and start getting in touch with the people that are going to actually refer you, because the majority of our business comes from a referral from an inpatient drug clinic. And
Okay. So what's the
yeah,
question you ask them?
the biggest thing to ask is who's in charge of your housing, and then getting a hold of that person, let them know, hey, I've got a sober living home in your area coming up, and who is in charge of housing. And then once you get that person, then it's finding out what their need is. Do you need more men's homes or more women's homes? And they will definitely tell you, because you don't want to commingle. You want men's or women's. And that also brings up, these are only sober living. So if you're running a sober living home, you're not running a VA home and an elderly care home, and it's got to be one or the other. Because if it's not, no one wants to help you. They're not going to send people to that because you don't know what a sober living home is then. Because a sober living home is one purpose, sober living. I know this sounds ridiculously too easy, but ultimately that is the biggest challenge that people have. It's getting on that phone, it's contacting the people and finding people that are going to refer people into your home. And I tell people to do this before they even have a home, before they do anything, because let's just say there are no there's no inpatient drug clinics in your area, which I haven't found yet pretty much anywhere in the US. My town only has 11,000 people in it, and we have over 50 beds, and they stay full all the time, and we have a waiting list. So it's not about, I don't live in downtown Seattle, I can't do this. Like, I'm not what we would consider rural, but 11,000 people is not a big town. It's an apartment building in some areas.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Okay, basic first step would be to call inpatient care. Would you call them?
Either rehab or drug, inpatient drug clinics or inpatient rehab clinics, will come up the same.
Yeah. And then get a taste for what is in demand at the moment.
I would be shocked if it's not in demand. And then the other big thing is that is your networking and your lead generation. Like when I was a realtor, we would call expireds, we would send out flyers. This is your lead generation. You're not trying to directly find people that want to live in a sober living home. You're going to the place where people are getting sober and then are going to need a sober living home.
Okay. What is the biggest fear for someone to make that call?
You know what? I think it's just the biggest fear that stops a lot of people from picking up the phone. I don't know what to say. What if they ask me questions? I don't have a home. And I never tell people to lie, but if this is something you're thinking about doing and you want to open a sober living home in that area, then if you call and say, I'm looking at opening a sober living home in your area, you're not lying. You don't want to call and say, I've got 57 sober living homes. But my opinion is you don't want to be too, I don't know, I'm thinking about it. Just call, be confident. I'm looking at opening a sober living home in your area. I want to see what your needs are. They will tell you.
Is this something your certification walks them through on how to make these phone calls?
Absolutely. I do a lot of live stuff. So we do a lot of Q&As. And this last one, I actually got on with my students in their area and I called inpatient clinics in their area and started getting them hooked up with people. And I've got one guy who has had a house for 3 months, but he's a very soft-spoken guy. So even in person, he's very hard to hear and he just doesn't have any confidence. So he's calling these places and no one will talk to him. I called 3 places and we've already got people going into his house. So it's just, you got to pump up for it. When we ran a real estate team, we'd actually sit around a big table in the morning, every morning, and we'd all get each other pumped up and we'd all listen to each other call expireds. And because you get yelled at, you get all those things. So that's what holds people back. It's just that fear of, I don't want to call and get yelled at and get told no, when it's the lifeblood of this business. It's what keeps us full.
And if you also, some people are money driven, some people are impact driven. If you know that the work that you're going to be doing is actually going to be changing lives, it's a different motivation. And hopefully it makes you more bold and courageous in making those calls and not allowing your fear, which you can't touch it. It's not real. It's all in our mind. I'm not going to down your fear, but at the same time, we don't want it to deter us from doing the good work that we're called to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest part of it. And then the rest it's pretty simple steps. This is a very simply structured business. It's got a few moving parts. And that's where I get to come in with my Group Home Accelerator and you get that live touch with me where we get to work through all of these things. Okay. And what do you do now when somebody does drugs in your home?
Yes. Do that.
You do have to kick them out immediately. That is one of the things that is a blessing in this business, is that you have the power to do that the way that this is structured, because they're never really a tenant. They're in a program. And it's not about kicking them out viciously, but it's that you have to protect the rest of the home. If drugs infiltrate that home, it will spread throughout the whole house. And you have to protect everybody else. And we don't kick them out with no point of return. We let them know there's different things. It depends on what the offense is. There's sometimes, hey, you need to leave the house for 2 weeks. And if you can come back and you can pass a drug test and be sober, we'll bring you right back in. Hey, you need to go to another 30 days of inpatient drug clinic and we will hold your bed for you. And then you can come back in. And then sometimes they're just such the way that they respond to us and them doing drugs or breaking the rules, if they have no remorse and they don't really want to fix it, then we just don't let them come back.
So I could see that being something that holds someone back. Oh God, I'm not a confrontational person. Do you have to do that?
I personally don't. I did in the very beginning. I knew when I started this that I was going to structure this as a business. So I created it as a business for myself, not a job. So I brought employees in right away. I was boots on the ground for about the first 4 to 6 months, just because I really like to know how everything works. So then that way I can step in if I have to. I never like to, if I hire somebody and I don't know how to do their job and they leave, or something happens to them, they get in a car wreck, they get in whatever. I want to be able to step in and take over their job. But since then, I don't do any of that. I have a small team of 2 people and they run everything. And
Okay.
they're amazing at what they do.
Okay. Nice. Is that something you also teach in your accelerator program?
I teach how to start and scale. So yes, I
Okay.
can absolutely show you how to get up and be running. Something that comes up a lot too. What if I don't have a home? You can 100% rent homes. We have a guy that has 24 sober living homes, doesn't own one of them.
Oh my gosh. My mind is blown right now.
That's that part that really shocks people too. But like now, ultimately, I promote people to own the homes just because you're building your wealth and there's things there's a lot of positive reasons to do it, but it shouldn't, it's not what's going to hold you back. You don't
Mhm.
have to own them.
Wow. Okay. So the other part I'm thinking that might come up for someone is how do I get paid if these people are like just starting out? I don't want to take from the poor, or how do you get
And
paid?
that is one of the craziest things about this. There is so much assistance out there. This is some portions of checks that we get because there is a lot of government and a lot of state funding for this. And actually, quite a few of the inpatient drug clinics themselves will fund people as well. So sometimes they'll get out of the clinic, and that clinic may offer them funding anywhere between 2 and 4 months. And then there's other funding that you can get between 2 and 6 months. We've got people that are rounding 2 years in our homes that have been paid for the whole 2 years because they just stay on top of the funding that they need.
Do you help them find the funding, or how does that work?
Now we do. Ultimately, you'll want to. So we use a great database that's built just for sober living. And we put notes in there. So, we know that, hey, Joe has 3 months through this vendor, but we hit 2 months and we say, hey, Joe, you've only got 1 month left on this. What's your plan? Are you going to go to self-pay? Are you going to look for some more funding? Here are 3 places that you could call that fit your scenario that might help fund you. Or are you going to just move on? And then they start looking for that funding. And then we do put that on them. It is up to them to be in charge of their funding because their funding does come with strings, not strings. Well, they normally have to check in with somebody and they have to go to drug and alcohol classes or whatever their addiction is, maybe NA, Narcotics Anonymous. So they have responsibilities to be able to keep getting that funding. So we do try to keep them on track with that as well. We are there to help, and we're in these homes almost every single day. None of our people live on site because there's really two models. You can have someone in the home help you run the home and be like a house leader, or you can hire staff, or you can just do it yourself.
Mm.
But I don't like the in-home because 2 reasons. One, the opportunity of relapse is high, and then you're losing that person. And two, the ultimate goal is for them to move on and be doing their own thing, get into their own house, get back to work, get their life back on track. I don't like to build things that I constantly have to rebuild. I don't want to have to keep
Right.
training a house manager and keep retraining. So I'd rather have a paid employee who wants to do this for the next 10 or 15 years, have a great job, really help a lot of people, and be consistent.
Man, okay, so you know what you just said there right now is you are the person that people should be listening to if they want to do this business model, because you're right. You don't want to build a business where you become a slave to the business. You want to create a business, and it sounds like you can show people how to do that. That runs itself, and you get to be the business owner, not the business worker.
Absolutely. Like I said, I don't like creating jobs for myself. I like building businesses. And look, if you want, this is a thing where you could have 2, 3 homes and you could replace a 6-figure income. So if you wanted to step in and run these and just, hey, I'm going to run these and this is what I'm going to do instead of working over here at this job for somebody else 40, 50 hours a week. Because like I said, we have over 50 beds and it's not a full-time job for either of my employees. They could run 100 homes and 100 beds and it wouldn't be a full-time job because it's not that kind of work. Yes, You have to be available a little bit more outside of regular hours, because if something happens late at night and somebody's using drugs, somebody does have to go over there and take care of that. But it's rare that happens when you structure your homes properly and run good homes, because there's a vetting process bringing people in. I'm giving a watered down version of everything, but it's not like there's that much more. It's just we go through and we only want to take people that we know are ready for recovery. A quick story about how I learned a really hard lesson on that was I had a counselor bring me someone who had been staying in a hotel for almost a month and was coming to my house. And I learned that you always do drug tests with them coming into your house the first time, and they have to be coming pretty much straight from a rehab facility, because he was absolutely using drugs. And I had the worst feeling in the world when he came, and I still took him. I'm like, something's off, man. The guy wouldn't look at me. And he actually is the only person so far, and this was my first week being open, who OD'd in one of my houses. He brought his girlfriend in and did drugs in my home his first night there and overdosed. So, like,
Did he die?
he did not. He did not.
Oh.
We keep Narcan in all of our homes. His girlfriend came out screaming, and someone came in and Narcaned him, and then the ambulance came quickly. But it's just, that's not running a home properly. That was my lack of knowledge and experience that I help impart on people so they never have to deal with that. Because it's the worst, and I can see where that would make someone never want to do this again. But if you do it right, you'll never run into that. Trust your gut and just follow those basic rules. If you can't pass a drug test coming through my door, you're not coming in. And if you're not coming from a treatment center, you can't have lived in a hotel by yourself for a month and succeeded, because he did not.
Yeah. And
Honestly,
at least it happened quickly.
it did. And honestly, it's probably the best that it happened in my home too, because if that would have happened to him in his room alone, he probably wouldn't have made it. So there's probably a little divine intervention in there too that probably saved him and taught me something very valuable at the same time. So looking at the good side of that coin.
Yes. Yay, pocket Jesus. No, I'm kidding. So thank you for bringing that up, because I was going to ask you, what is the biggest mistake that people make? I think you clearly stated that accepting someone not from an in-home rehab place and not drug testing them when they come in. How does this set with the neighborhood?
Initially, horribly. But
Okay.
once you explain and they understand what you're really doing, and when you run these homes, because not everyone runs these homes. There are people that are very much slumlords in this business. And you can do it. You can be a slumlord in any business. And they're the bad neighbors. They're the ones that have people fighting out in the streets at 2 a.m. They're the ones that have broken down cars and all those things around. But just, we have very strict rules and we enforce them. And it does start with that initial process of vetting people that you're bringing in. Once they realize that we're one of their best neighbors, that all of our lawns are always mowed, all of our people have a 10 p.m. curfew. So there's never late night party. There's never loud music. There's never drugs or alcohol happening on these properties either. Once they start to see that, wow, this is really cool. You guys are doing a good thing. Because one of the first things I always do, and I've always done this ever since I've even flipped homes, I knock on all the neighbors' doors on my block and I say, who I am and what I'm doing. I'm going to be the one doing construction down here. Let me know if there's problems. Hey, I do own this. We are a sober living home, but it's not a flop house. It's not a halfway house. It's a structured, organized home where people come for recovery. And other than you'll see more people here than you'd probably see in a normal home, it's going to be one of the better homes on your block, because everyone's going to be quiet. Everyone's going to be respectful. Everyone wants to be here. Everyone wants to be sober. And we have stringent rules. And I give them all my phone number, and they call if they don't like something.
That's good. That's great. And that's
Yeah.
a testament for you to create that relationship with the neighbors. Yeah.
It's important. It saved me more than once with major issues. Way back when I was flipping, I got a phone call from a neighbor at 12:30 at night, or in the morning, I guess that would be. And they said, I was just walking by your house coming home from the store, and there's water coming out from underneath the front door. I blazed over there. A pipe had broke and water was coming out I got it off within 40 minutes, I think, of when it started. So it didn't ruin the whole house. But
Wow.
it's good neighbors.
What has been the most rewarding thing for you doing these sober living homes?
It still always comes back to this one guy. He was probably my third guy that came into my home. And when he came in, he hid behind his hat brim. He was missing a lot of teeth, so he wouldn't really talk, wouldn't really smile, gave you the lip. And he just was so broken down. And By the time he left, he had brand new teeth and a big smile, and he had a new, not a new, but new to him, he had a little like Toyota truck, and he fixed it all up, and he was actually getting ready to drive back to the East Coast to reunite with his family because he was in his mid-30s, left home at 14, and hadn't been sober until now. So
Mm.
this was the longest time in his life that he'd been sober. He hadn't seen his family or talked to them for, what is that, almost 20 years? But it was just shaking his hand leaving as opposed to watching him come in as just this broke down to be in the, I can't believe it. I'm going to see my mom and dad. Big grin. It was absolutely epic. Like that. It's, oh my God, this is why you do this. So
Yeah, I have goosebumps on
it,
that.
it was cool. It still is cool.
Are you allowed to keep in touch with the people afterwards?
I am. His phone went away like right after he left, so we haven't communicated since. I hope he's still doing amazing, and I'm sure he is because he was in a good place in life. And it wasn't his family that got him into drugs, so it wasn't like he was going back to that bad environment. He left it because he wasn't welcome because of his childhood drug use. 14, 15 years old, holy cow. But he'd hopped trains, and he lived a colorful life up to that point.
Oh, thank God he survived it. I know as a parent myself, I would probably, it's a hard call, right? It's saying drugs aren't allowed here, but I love you and they leave. Ugh.
Yeah, it is a hard one.
But thank God, like
Absolutely.
essentially you had the same home. Drugs aren't allowed here, but he was willing to hear it this time.
They,
And
everyone has to be ready. We have to be ready for any of those real journeys in our life. And when we're not, you just can't force it on people. But you also don't have to accept it, at least
right.
not around you. And it's the hardest, most compassionate thing you can do sometimes is not accepting it.
That's really beautiful, Jim. Thank you for that. Do
Thank
you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners before I let you go?
The biggest thing I have to say on wanting to get into this is you really do have to come mission first with this. If you're just getting into this for money because you just want to be a person who has real estate and gets to rake it in on this, you need to find a good operator and you be the investor. Because I help two people with what I do. I help operators who are going to run these homes, and they're normally much more heart centric. And I help investors who are normally much more pocket centric. And it's that marriage of the two, because I do have a really hard time with people that are so compassionate but don't know how to run a business, and they're not going to be open next week or next month or next year to help more people because they're not doing the business parts of this that they have to do. So I have to make them a business person. And then having people where all they want to do is make money, and this, you can't just run this off of a P&L. You have to, people have to come first in this business, because if they don't, the money won't be there for you anyway. Or you'll be one of those slumlords and you will be on the news at some point. And it's not a good news story, I promise.
No.
I was just going to do my shameless plug. It's
Yeah.
an easy way to get me. JimBoad.com is my site, and it gives you all the information how to get hooked up with me.
Perfect. Perfect. I think for anybody that's looking for an entrepreneurial opportunity that marries purpose with profit, this is a great opportunity. So I would highly encourage you to reach out to Jim and to take advantage of what he's offering you. Even when we first met Jim, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell my husband this. Maybe this is something we want. I don't know. It's a beautiful marriage. I love that that between what you said, mission and money. So thank you for that. To the listener, if there's one thing I hope you take away from today's conversation, it's this. You don't have to choose between impact and income. You don't have to wait for perfect timing, and you don't have to have all the answers to begin. What Jim shared today is a powerful reminder that sometimes our greatest setbacks can become the very doorway to our purpose. That structure can be an act of compassion, the accountability can be life giving, and that building something meaningful can also create stability for you and for others. Living victoriously isn't always about dramatic breakthroughs. Sometimes it's about choosing to rebuild wisely, creating systems that support people, and saying yes to a path that serves more than just yourself. If you've been wondering whether your next chapter could be both profitable and purposeful, this might be your sign. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Small Victories Podcast. And until we meet again, be blessed.
Angel of light, come into me. Show me what I need to see.